Hi, so this video is to answer a question from Renee in Amsberg, Germany, and it's regarding the Omni wheel or omnidirectional wheel. And she asks specifically, why do we need this fancy, complicated omnidirectional wheel on the landing gear? You may be able to see it there in the background. Here's what we have, Renee. I've asked myself why the cabin bike hasn't caught on. Invented by a guy named Dalnik in Czechoslovakia, I think in about the 20s. And they've been around in various shapes and forms, but we've just never seen one in production. We've never seen one catch on. And I really think it's because of the fact that the landing gear is so limiting when it's down. When it's up, it's like flying an airplane. But when that landing gear is down, it's also like an airplane. I mean, it's kind of off topic, but a 747 can fly 500 miles an hour. But when it's on the ground with the landing gear down, it can barely get out of its own way. It can barely maneuver, and it's the same problem with the cabin bike. We solved the problem with the omnidirectional wheel. Here's what happens. You put the landing gear down, and now you have no steering because you have 3 fixed wheels on the ground, your 2 landing gear, and the rear wheel. So even though you're turning the front wheel, you really have very little steering. You're really pushing those 2 fixed landing gear wheels side to side rather than steering them. And nobody's come up with any kind of automatic steering or self-centering wheels, casters that seem to work. We explored all of that. But the omnidirectional wheel I know has solved all these problems. So with the omnidirectional wheel down, you just drive around. The wheel is made to rotate in the conventional sense around the hub, but then there's also smaller wheels that can rotate in the other direction. And what that does is it combines an x-axis and a y-axis to enable us motion in any direction without drag. And what we found with the omnidirectional wheel, the vehicle feels a lot lighter when the landing gear is down. Whether we're pushing it or we're under power, that's because we're not scrubbing those wheels. We don't have 3 fixed wheels on the ground. And I say it feels lighter when we're turning. It has a much tighter turning radius with the omnidirectional wheel. We don't have that drag on the landing gear, on the outriggers. The other thing is we can just drive around with the landing gear halfway down and the vehicle leaned completely over on the gear. We can't do that with a conventional tire because we can't put sideways pressure on the sidewall. So let me show you a little bit of the Omni wheel. Fairly simple. It was a little tricky to develop, but as far as assembly and production of the parts, it's just a lot of the same thing repeated over and over and over and over. So we have a couple of plates here, and we'll pause the video for a second here to show you some clean photographs. So let's take a moment now then and look at a nice photo of these plates. And then we'll look at an exploded view of the entire wheel put together. And then we'll look at the wheels and the bushings. And then the clips. What we see here is 1/2 of one of the wheels. And what we have is we have the smaller wheels, the rubber wheels, which go sideways. And I explained earlier, we have the conventional motion in this direction around the hub, But then our smaller wheels are able to turn in the other direction. And those two motions are combined to give us movement in any direction without having drag on any of the components. Now inside the wheel here we've got a couple bushings. And 5/16 steel axles. And then the clip that holds it in. And we have a lot more on the website, even videos showing how to make that clip and some more of the CAD work of the wheel. But really, this was to answer Renee's question as far as why this fancy, complicated wheel sticking out the side. And it was to solve the problem in steering mainly when we have three fixed wheels on the ground. We had, and I know I'm repeating myself, but to be clear, we had to make the outriggers, the landing gear, able to operate in any direction to eliminate the drag that they were causing. And also, Renee, it's really dangerous to drive the cabin bike around at any sort of speed with a conventional wheel on the landing gear. Kind of like driving around an airplane on the ground. But with the omni-directional wheel, it's easier, safer. We have a tighter turning radius, and we can just drive around with the landing gear up or the landing gear down and make tight U-turns and do burnouts. And it was all because of the adding that omni-directional capability to the landing gear wheel.